I'm trying to beat Act 2 on Baldur's Gate 3's hardest difficulty without picking up or using a single item. That means no weapons or armor, which makes it impossible for my enemies to miss me. It also means no camp supplies, which makes it much harder to regain health or spells because I can't full long rest. And it means no gold, so that any character that dies permanently if Shadowheart cannot revive them with a Revivify spell. And the only exceptions are the mysterious artifact and camp clothes, so I stay monetized. If you want to see Act 3 of Baldur's Gate 3, as well as help me get monetized, like up the video and subscribe to the channel. I'm trying to hit 10,000 subscribers, and with your help, we can do it. Enjoy. The literal second I reached Act 2, I ran into my first problem, the Shadow Curse. It requires a torch to survive, and that's an item. So I decided to dismiss my other companions and drag a lit torch all the way to the camp. I wanted to try something new this time, so I sided with the Drider so he could take us safely to Moonrise. We were ambushed on the way by some petty harpers, and decimated them in one turn. And then the Drider proceeded to take us directly to Moonrise. I completely forgot that Shadowheart's immune to the lesser effects of the Shadow Curse, but don't worry about that. The Drider took us to Moonrise, where I recruited and saved Minthara. I put all of her future levels into Sorcerer to make her a ranged damage dealer.
Right.
But then I realized I was permanently stuck in Act 2, as I would receive a backpack from Halsin and Minthara because they wouldn't come back with me. You might be wondering, why not just kill Karnas and use his Moon Lantern? I was under the impression that if I got the Moon Lantern from Balthazar's chamber, that instead of picking it up, I could drag it along the ground to have it active. But it doesn't work until someone picks it up. So I needed to kill Karnas and take his lantern, which was already active. I was only level 7, so I came up with an idea to get XP. Before inevitably facing the Drider and the Necromites to get the only Moon Lantern that worked, I had Will summon a cat with the Find Familiar spell. Then I positioned all of my party members on the backwood bridge on the first floor of the tower. I had Will's cat lure the enemies with Meow, one by one, to the bridge. Then I went into turn-based mode and had Gale thunderwave them off the edge, killing any that resisted it. We spent almost 2 hours doing that to everyone, including the traders, because I can't ever get anything from them, and everyone else. I held off on freeing the prisoners, and then had the idea to use Command Drop on Karnas to get him to drop the Moon Lantern, which didn't anger him, and then use Mage Hand to throw Moon Lantern down from the tower to another floor where I could get it. For some reason, the Mage Hand throwing the lantern causes everyone to turn on us, and our own Mage Hand is immediately killed. But eventually, we killed everyone in the tower but Ketheric before slowly dragging the lit Moon Lantern around so that we could leave. I needed to reach level 8 and maybe even level 9 before Ketheric, so I tried to confront the other Thorms and do as many of the big XP fights to get as much XP as possible. I went for the Thorms,
Let's go.
and then took on some of the optional fights before I rested and completely forgot that I need to kill Isobel at last light. I spoke to Arabella only to realize I couldn't complete her quest because she gives me a ring for doing so. And I can't avoid killing Isobel or I am forced to kill the only character that can revive party members, Shadowheart. Now, I thought I would end up killing Shadowheart, but you'll see about that later. So I headed off to confront Isobel. Now, normally, if you kill Isobel, you have to deal with all the Harpers as Shadow-Cursed Undead. There does exist an exploit by polymorphing Isobel, which doesn't despawn her, Marcus, or the Winged Horrors, but I just didn't do that. I sided against Marcus, and then just let Isobel die. Then I kept Jaheira alive during the subsequent fight, and had to return to camp for now. Now, I had planned to try and lift the Shadow Curse until I realized the item we needed to wake up Artculla was a loot, which was an item. So I let him die in the Shadow Curse. I will realize what this meant much later. I unlocked my Slayer form, which isn't an item, and is a vital way to get some extra HP, because the next section would be very hard. The Gauntlet of Shar. I needed to do 2 things in the Gauntlet of Shar. Number 1, Balthazar needs to be die, because it's going to mess me up if he follows me into the Shadowfell. And 2, I need to reach the Shadowfell without any of the 4 Umbral Gems. I'm sure all of you know how this goes. I used the knock spell to open the door to Balthazar's room, and invisibly opened it, merging the two combats. Then I annoyed Balthazar by killing his friends, and then used Sanctuary to just watch as he was decimated by the Shar worshippers. Now you might be wondering, how did he get to the Verge of Shadows? At this point, we had reached level 9, and I had Gale learn Fly, and by standing in this exact spot, a Fly spell allows you to fly down so long as the game is out of turn-based mode, to the entrance. And a knock spell will open the door. So long for useless traps. But that was when the first major blow came. We were about to go in to the Shadowfell when Shadowheart told me we needed to find the Spear of Night in the Silent Library. Because that library has a silence effect, not only would that make the fight incredibly hard, but I couldn't even pick up the spear because it's an item. You cannot enter the Shadowfell without the Spear of Night. I knew what had to be done. So I had to turn on her, and we dropped her in one turn. Now, once again, we could not ever revive a character. I also turned on her here, so she wouldn't give me her items if I just went in and did the section without her. I entered the Night Song's prison, faced no resistance, and freed the Night Song. Wait, what is this? Turns out, if you free the Night Song, she gives you the Moonlight Glaive. I tried everything to avoid it, but to no avail. I had just saved too, so this was a soft lock. And with no other options, I did a complete 180 and decided to let Balthazar take the Night Song, which meant a reload almost 2 hours back to when he was alive. But as I was resting, I was visited by Fell, where he told me to kill Isobel, the cleric at Last Light. I genuinely forgot that I reloaded before it, and realized I need to kill her for the Slayer form. I headed over to Last Light and sided against Marcus this time. I had hoped to kill Marcus and everyone else, but one of the winged horrors killed Isobel, and doomed the Harpers. This battle was very tedious until I realized they knocked her out because I got the second cutscene with Scleritus the next night. This would require me to kill Lae'zel, and I just couldn't make the saves to avoid it. Then I ended up losing all my companions as they turned on me. Reload. Second attempt. This one went much better, and the winged horrors rolled much lower initiative. Not everything was perfect, though.
Marcus needs to die. Oh, shoot! Oh, God!
It was a big problem when Minthara and everyone else took a lot of damage through Vampiric Shout. Now this might be a good time to mention our secret weapon. Minthara is a sorcerer, and I had her learn Twin Spell for meta magic. I also had her learn Haste, so by using Haste on Astarion, because Wild Shape is a bonus action for him, I can also haste my character as well for 2 extra attacks. And with our twin haste, we eradicate Marcus and most of the winged horrors before we let Isobel die to Moonbeam. We kept Jaheira alive so that we could recruit her later, and the battle was so fast against the Harpers that half of the Shadow Creepers didn't even spawn until after the fight was over. I got the Slayer form and then let Balthazar take the Night Song, something I had actually never done before. After killing Shadowheart, unfortunately. Also, if you don't have Shadowheart in your party, she gives you an empty backpack, which would fail the challenge. Now, the game was starting to massively break in a few ways.
Unnerving though it is, the Emperor is the reason we have
Wait, what?
and if the gift princes suffer,
Huh?
the price.
Here, okay. She's not supposed to say that.
And that might be why the UI looks like this. This affects a large portion of the game, and it just starts to break for no reason. So if you see something weird, I have no idea why. So it's probably related to something I've been doing. After we spoke to Ketheric Thorm, we hear a story. A boring story. And then we are told to bow before the altar of the Absolute, and he gives us the gift of the Absolute. So was this over? Not really. I first tried to bypass the cutscene with invisibility, a box tower, which failed because I couldn't pick any up, a misty step, and everything to bypass the trigger. Nothing worked. Then I did some research into the gift of the Absolute. It turns out the gift of the Absolute never shows up in your inventory because the only time you can get one is after the Dream Guardian cutscene, where the Dream Guardian tells you, nom nom on those tadpoles. It's impossible for it to be an item. Bullet dodged, for now. After Ketheric took me downstairs to the colony, we had to now defeat Balthazar. The problem was that while in the profane wombs, yes, that's what they are called, we were silenced, so Itemless would basically have to solo this fight. He wasn't alone, however, as Balthazar was accompanied by zombie Dror Ragslin and some reconstituted marksmen and zombies. Even after I freed Astarion and Minthara, the fight still took a while. But we eventually got Will out, and he took out the zombies, and big boy Balthazar soon followed. Now we were in the colony, so I did a few small fights, used the only restoration pod, and no, it cannot be added to your inventory, so it is not an item. Ketheric awaited. We watched the Infinity Stones being assembled to command a brain, and then prepared an ambush. I had Will's imp invisibly sneak up and attack an intellect devour to start the fight, by surprising everyone. And then I had Minthara blast all the necromites with thunder abilities. Itemless butchered a mind flayer in one turn. Ketheric was going to be harder. But after freeing Aelin, the fight easily turned in our favor. Then Merkel pops his ultimate and begins annihilating us. That is until Minthara blinds him and Will uses Hunger of Hadar. Merkel is now unable to see or use his ranged abilities, but unfortunately Will got his concentration broken and Minthara was killed. Because I needed her, I had to reload or I will forever play the game with 3 characters. Second try went much better, and we shredded Merkel in just 4 turns. GG's Simmons. Remember when I said bullet dodged for now? This is now. With Ketheric dead, I needed to pick up his netherstone to leave. Before this challenge, there existed a way for the cutscene to just not play if everyone was in wild shape when Ketheric dies. But because my party cannot become druids because we have no gold, and even though Astarion is a druid and can be in wild shape, if we all died, we could never get revived. And you cannot progress to Act 3 without your main character being alive. So with no way around it, we needed to interact with his corpse, and a cutscene forced us into picking up his netherstone. Now, this hit isn't over yet. As I was about to leave Act 2, I remembered something. Because Art Culla, that forgettable flaming fist, died in Last Light, it occurred to me I could just cast Speak with Dead on him to get all the information I need to lift the curse. No items necessary. I helped Halsin fight off the shadows and then brought him into our party. I spoke to Oliver and then followed him into his boss fight. I had 2 dryads, thanks to having Jaheira and Halsin, that both use spike growth to stop his shadow friends. That leaves the 2 real threats of the boss fight, Mommy and Daddy. Daddy has a high damage area attack to lecture us for not touching grass all year, and Mommy on the other hand can put our characters and summons to sleep because we've been staying up late playing Fortnite. They're also resistant to almost everything but Radiant, and Itemless excels at dealing Radiant damage. Eventually we took out Mommy and Daddy, but Oliver wasn't done yet. He summoned Shadow Plush, an owlbear, and Astarion had a one-on-one owlbear fight. He easily won that fight, by the way. Eventually, we took out the enemies and lifted the Shadow Curse. Now, we have Lae'zel, Will, Karlach, Gale, Minthara, Astarion, Halsin, and Jaheira. With everything in Act 2 done that I wanted to do, I headed out of the Shadow Curse land and watched the sun rise on a grateful land. We took a long rest, and surprise, some Gith raiders are here to attack us. Even though Itemless is also a monk, he got quickly put in his place when a key resonation blast on the monks did absolutely nothing. We barely managed to reach the portal alive, but eventually we entered the Astral Prism. Fighting Githyanki monks was incredibly rough, especially since they basically cannot miss because of our low armor class, and deal large amounts of damage because of how high the difficulty is. What did we do? Well, we just pushed them off with skills and spells. Into space, which is known for its high gravitational pull and death barrier. Once we entered where the real fun was happening, we encountered some Gith and a Mind Flayer also attempting Itemless. Or maybe not. Turns out the leader of the Gith had boots, which failed the challenge, so we attacked them, because they used an item. After the battle was over, we had a problem. The Emperor wants us to evolve, and because I couldn't pick up any items, I couldn't refuse to do it. because I would receive the tadpole in my inventory, even though I had consumed none. I reloaded saves and tried some of the different options to see if it showed up in our inventory. It turns out, if you eat the tadpole, no one else can use it, so it doesn't show up in your inventory. Down the hatch it goes. So, that finishes Act 2. If you like the Itemless series, give the video a like and subscribe. We're trying to hit 1K by May, and with your help, we can. See you later.